Hello and welcome. So this is going to be a lore reading. See what we have learned by descending further into this Grey Warden fortress slash prison. The creature can speak. It has a name, Corypheus. We have encountered Darkspawn before who use words. None individual enough to have chosen a name. This Corypheus appears unique among Darkspawn and has gathered many of its brethren to follow it. To be wasteful to kill such a creature. If it can be captured, tamed somehow, its unnatural influence over the Darkspawn could perhaps be turned to our favor. It is clear that the Darkspawn will never bow to human commands, but this Corypheus seems at times more human than beast. I have conversed with it, and though its thoughts are disordered and inhuman, it speaks of the old gods by their Tevinter names. I wonder if it perhaps no Darkspawn at all, but a ghoul corrupted by the taint as to have become a new creature entirely. I recommend we find a way to capture Corypheus, hold it somewhere safe from both men and Darkspawn, and study its unique nature. This would require magic, however, for Corypheus's own abilities are powerful. It uses spells both human and tainted, and has a strength that would shame any magister. We must muster our best mages to face it and hold it. From Warden Commander Farrell to the First Warden in Weishaupt, 1004 TE. All we hear is that this is one of the great Grey Warden's secrets. It must be protected at all costs. As usual, we're most concerned with deceiving our own people. But why hide? Hey, that the deep roads were shaped not only by the dwarves, but also by us. I found records dating back to 1000 TE in the wake of the first Blight. The early Warden discovered that some Darkspawn could think and speak and command portions of the Horde even after the Archdemon's death. A few could wield magic with the skill of a Tevinter Magister, and the Wardens greatly feared them. It was here in the Vimmark Mountains that Warden Sashamiri set up her trap to capture and study the greatest of these creatures, the one whom they call Corypheus, from Janika's research notes. I feel like it would be difficult to hide the Darkspawn being able to use magic, given how long the Blights tended to take. I know, like, in Origins, it's like, okay, sure, it's probably longer than 9 months, given that, an encounter at the beginning, if you're a he'll Dwarven Royal, can produce a child before the end of the game, so assuming that dwarves gestate for about as long as humans do, that's like 9 months there, and then so it's like could be maybe a couple years. But like the first one lasted about almost 2 centuries. The rest last like decades. So it seems to make sense that people would encounter and survive the magic wielding Darkspawn occasionally, and then stories would spread. And also kind of surprising that um, given the Grey Warden's tendency to, in some cases, kill people to maintain their secrets, that they let Malcolm Hawke leave after knowing that there's this great Darkspawn which can speak and use magic, unless they, didn't tell him about that and were just like, yeah, so have these old seals on this thing that we just need, no questions asked, just use your blood to make sure these stay sealed. Characters. Zenon the Antiquarian. You received the invitation, and you are fortunate indeed. Zenon is no ordinary man, as you will discover for yourself when you enter the Black Emporium. The item you'll see resting in the chair is not one of the displays, rather it is the proprietor. It may speak to you, that's Zenon, using the mystical bauble that has allowed him to communicate since he lost the power of speech. The story tells that Zenon was a Kirkwall woman in the Age of Steel almost 300 years ago. Obsessed with the pursuit of eternal life, he made a deal with a powerful witch. Some say it was the legendary Antivan Witch of the Wares. And his wish was granted. He obtained eternal life, but not eternal youth. Oh yes, that old chestnut. I believe there's a Greek myth about someone who, I think it's like, fell in love with the goddess and the other, like, petitioned the other deities to make him immortal, like have eternal life, but didn't get him eternal youth. And so he grew older and older and older, and eventually, like, begged his girlfriend, I guess, wife. I don't know if he actually married the goddess, but to actually be released because, like, he was incredibly old but couldn't die. Anyway, he obtained eternal life but not eternal youth. His body became decrepit, and he used his vast wealth to seek out ways of preserving it. Some were magical, many were dangerous, and almost all of them were unsuccessful. What remains is an immobile mass of twisted flesh, and I think Zenon's mind has slowly decayed along with his body. He hid away in the Undercity and has slowly amassed a collection that's sure to amaze. If he invited you, he thinks you have the coin he needs to further his search for a cure. Just don't think of stealing anything. The golem is not for show. Although you're free to look around the shop, I wouldn't suggest staying over long. You might be present for one of his baths. His servant gives him hourly to keep his flesh from becoming completely desiccated. Trust me, you don't want that. From a letter of unknown origin, 849 Blessed. Okay, so 300 years ago, 849 Blessed, that's not the current age. The current age is the Dragon Age, so this is the previous century. So he's now probably close to 400 years old. Lore. Dumat, the Dragon of Silence. Dumat was the most powerful of the old gods, known as the Dragon of Silence for the vows of silence undertaken by his acolytes. Chantry lore claims it was he who taught the first Magister, Archon Thalzian, the powers of blood magic. It was Dumat's followers who are believed to have entered the Golden City, thereby corrupting it and their presence. Modern scholars question whether the old gods were truly gods, and whether they were merely a more advanced species of high dragon, possibly capable of magic or speech, that were worshipped by the ancient inventors. Whatever the truth of his history, Dumat was also the first of the imprisoned old gods to have been discovered by the Darkspawn and thus transformed into the first archdemon, the monstrous force behind the first blight. From Tales of Discussion of Thetis by Brother Janet TV, Chantry Scholar. Well, I mean, it's nice that, that is something I've been saying for a while. It's like, I don't know why they, with Revelations, there will be revelations in Veilguard. There are revelations, I can speak, in Veilguard about the nature of the old gods. I'm not entirely happy with that, so that can be answered, but that was something I always kind of wondered. It's like, okay, how do we know that the archdemons are actually the old gods? How do we know they aren't just dragons? some manner of dragon that for some reason, when it gets the blight, it takes over. Andraste in nude repose. Invisible. What? Can stone lie with a purpose? Can it beckon with raw feminine command, yet shine with an inspiring virtue? That challenge was posed to the sculptor Arwan de Glacy. I assume that's supposed to be French. I don't know French. Artisan and son of Empress Vogin of Orlais. Sorry to any Orlesians in the audience, I probably butchered that. It was busy work and rhetoric in a time of excess, but answer he did, with the reserves of a nation, and a passion unhealthy. His subject Our Lady, though not as depicted in traditional statuary. Arwan's mad ambition summoned the form of Andraste, uninterrupted by the trappings of war and devoid of the vestments she assumed after death. It was living, commanding, obscene, yet inspired. To gaze upon it was to be enthralled spiritually and physically. It was the latter that alarmed the Chantry officials. They blanched at the thought of Our Lady being possessed of such a base appeal, even though they too were drawn. The work could not be destroyed without threatening the balance of the empire and the hallowed, so a grave censorship was enacted under the guise of honoring. Enchanters were tasked with extending the ethereal that hides the fade, drawing it around the form like a cloak. Our Lady remains in the stone and in this world, but mortal eyes forever are denied the treasure and her treasure and glory. She is veiled in every sense. As in all things, unintended consequences must vex those with pure intentions. Modesty would have been better served by a thickened sheet, drawn back like when the techniques were to be studied. As it is, the sculptor's skills are accessible only to an exploring touch, defining the shape by intimate caress. All manner of strange congress has stemmed from tempted hands, and the innocent wish for clarity, from art and shame, forbidden wonders of faith, by Faucin de Petite Foret. Petit Foret? Translated by Philium, a bard! Why the exclamation? Okay, so apparently that sculpture is supposed to be invisible, and thus you end up, in order to enjoy it or experience it, you have to actually touch it, and it's supposed to be Andraste, nude. Okay, that's a little weird. Though the thing does occur to me is that with the magical excess of Tevinter, I can see them potentially doing something like that, like having a statue commissioned and then having it made invisible, so you have to experience it by touch. Either, like, take a sculpture and put it in the fade so only mages can appreciate it or something like that. The pickled apples of Arlathan. But, I mean, they could have Dalish fish instead. invention of my own. I expressed my incredulity to the shop's assistant, who coldly noted that he did not like my implication. He insisted that every article in the Black Emporium was genuine, no fakes, imitations, or cheap knockoffs. I must have appeared unconvinced, for the assistant narrowed his eyes at me and disappeared into the bowels of the shop. Returning several minutes later, he removed a jar of pickled apples from his display case and proceeded to carefully, reverently remove the wax seal from the upper lid of the jar. I watched with fascination as the jar was opened and a single rosy apple pulled from it. It looked as if it had been picked just that day, at the peak of ripeness. With a paring knife, the assistant cut the thinnest sliver of flesh from the apple and presented it to me. The flavor of that one small sliver was astonishing. It was as close to a perfect apple as ever there was. I was experiencing the essence of every apple ever eaten, that ever will be eaten. When it was over, the sense of loss that filled me was sharp enough to move me to tears. The rest of the apple was returned to the jar, which was then resealed. I paid 5 sovereigns for a single taste, and I believe I got the better part of the bargain. From the letters of Brother Ferdinand Genitivi to Sister Petrine. Oh, Petrine, not Patrice. Gentry Scholar. Box of Screaming. I received the box from a man I met in the Silent Plains. He spoke little and would not reveal his name. For reasons I shall not detail here, I had been kidnapped and left for dead in that grey, wind-blasted wasteland. After days of walking, I was parched and close to death. I was about to dash my head on a rock to speed my passing when the man arrived. He possessed a waterskin containing ample water for a person traveling from our location to the Imperial Highway. From there, he said, I could find my way to Solus, or Perivantium. He offered to give me the waterskin if I agreed to take 3 things from him: a glowing crystalline shard, a bronze sphere, and an iron-bound box with no hinges. I asked the man if he wished to have these items delivered. He said merely that he wanted me to have them. It was an odd request, but I was too weak and too desperate to think much of it, so I agreed. The man put the items into a leather sack, which he handed to me along with the water. What about you? I asked. He said nothing, only pointed in the direction from which I had come. There is nothing that way, I said. He merely smiled at me. I found the Imperial Road about a day later, and a caravan driver agreed to take me to Perivantium in exchange for the large glowing shard. In Perivantium I bartered the bronze sphere for new clothes and a room at the inn. That night I examined the iron-bound box and found no way to open it. I held it to my ear and thought I heard slow, measured breathing coming from within it. My mind was afire with curiosity, and I obtained from the innkeeper a large hammer, thinking to smash the thing open. The moment the hammer touched the box, it shrieked. The shrill sound pierced the depths of my soul. I gave the box to the innkeeper in the morning, and felt better for having gotten rid of it, having rid myself of it. A torn page from Steer's journal on display in the Black Emporium. Again, it sounds like something you could probably do with magic. Create a box that can just continuously contain a sound. A vessel of tears. Although this wax-stoppered vessel is clearly labeled Tears Shed During the Burning of Treviso, has that happened yet? Many questions remain, not the least of which is, which burning of Treviso? When the Qunari conquered it in 635 Steel, when it was burned by the liberating armies of the White and Black Divines during the Second Exalted March of 752 Storm, or when it was accidentally burned to the ground in 862 Blessed, after a dockhand knocked over a lantern in a warehouse full of lamp oil. That could do it. Even assuming the correct event could be determined, the question of whose tears have been collected remains. Presumably not any of the numerous fire victims, surviving relatives perhaps? Nobles with summer homes on the Antivan coast? It should be noted that nowhere on the label, does it say that these tears were shed in relation to the event? So they could have been shed. They've been the tears of a woman in Montsimard weeping because she was not asked to dance at the last costume ball, unaware that at that very moment one of the greatest port cities of Thedas was aflame. From the letters of Brother Ferdinand Genetivi to Sister Petrine, Chantry Scholar. Places? The Warden's Prison. The Grey Warden's Prison in the Vimark Mountains is believed to have been constructed more than 1,000 years ago. Okay, wonder where I read somewhere that said 2,000 years ago. But I didn't think there'd been enough time. Well, I suppose that does work out. Could work out. Because, so assuming, built shortly after the first Blight, right, then you have got like 100 years from the end of the first Blight to the beginning of the second Blight, I think. Then however many decades each Blight takes after that, in 100 years, and plus the 400 after the fourth Blight, 400 or 500. I suppose that could end up being like 1,000 years, maybe. The prison is concealed in the Great Rift in Vimark Mountains, far from any easily traveled passes. The wardens themselves spread rumors of banditry and beasts to prevent explorers from approaching. They could also be bandits themselves. Earn some money for the Grey Wardens and also keep people away from the prison. The prison consists of a central tower built into the rift with magically maintained bridges, allowing access to different levels. Each level is sealed by a blood magic ritual, in which the Mage of Untainted Blood uses his own life essence to create a magical barrier that is permeable from the outside yet impermeable from within. This one-way access has caused other Darkspawn and perhaps unwary travelers to be caught within the prison's confines. Those who disappeared inside never re-emerge. I have a question. If using your life essence to do anything permanent with magic, if you die, does the magic go away then? Or is it like sort of a thing where you have a certain amount of life essence, and you can use up a bunch of it to do magic? That might also shorten your life? Who knows? Items. The key. The key is, and always will be, part of the cage that holds Corypheus. The prisoner's power is tied to that of the key. As the power of one waxes, the other wanes. The key's origins are lost to time. All we know that it is an ancient, powerful weapon. The wardens of old uncovered a few of its secrets, just enough to draw upon its magic to create the seal that hold Corypheus. It's kind of an interesting thought, because if I'm gaining more power for the key, does that mean we're weakening Corypheus? Then that might also make it why we're able to defeat him. Like, would we be able to defeat him if we hadn't powered up the key? Accounts indicate that the key attunes itself to whichever man or woman wields it in the rituals that reinforce Corypheus' chains. And now we're releasing it. It is the nature of magic, something in the blood. The key is currently attuned to one Malcolm Hawk, the last mage to hold it. So it's a thing that they periodically have to redo? The key is an essential part of strengthening his seals, and also the only thing that can break Corypheus free, from Jenica's research notes. That could be an interesting thing. More or less, they get some mage who's not part of the order to reinforce these wards, and then basically tell them, okay, go off and live your life, like, live a safe life, if without, like, far from here, and don't, like, bother with that. I was thinking, I wonder if they wouldn't, might not make more sense to not use, well, I suppose they would need to convince a circle to give up one of their mages if they were going to use a circle mage, or I suppose they could also do a thing where they, well, thing where a mage who's about, like, give the mage back, and then the mage is made tranquil so they can't actually do any more magic. That might also help with that being, like, definitely convincing the tranquil mage to now not tell anyone about what they know. But, I mean, there's also the thing of, like, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. So you could also just kill the mage who did it. Fortunate that they didn't kill Malcolm Hawke, but... Anyway. Creatures! Genlock. Genlock is the most common darkspawn in the underground. They are tough, stocky, notoriously difficult to kill, and since many show at least some resistance to magic. Oh, that's how that sense works. They are creatures of darkness with keen senses and intuitive understanding of the deep places that allow them to take even groups of seasoned warriors by surprise. Genlocks are what make traversing the deep road so dangerous. A small group of creatures can easily overwhelm and mercilessly slaughter a small party within minutes. Genlock alphas are stronger and more physically intimidating than most Genlocks. They are known for bullying other Genlocks into doing their bidding. Hurlock Alpha. The Hurlock Alpha is more intelligent than the other alphas of other darkspawn types. Usually armed with a large, vicious weapon, they are known to act as commanders on the battlefield, directing and controlling the lesser darkspawn in their strange, brutish way. Pride Demon. Let me explain what it is to face a Pride Demon, my friends. You may scoff and say that our talents exist only to face mages, but you will encounter demons often. They will be summoned by Maleficar and bound to do his bidding. While at times they will be forced into the possession of a host, they will also face you in their true form, a powerful opponent indeed. Do not underestimate it. Pride is powerful and intelligent. When we have encountered one in its true form, its most common attacks are bolts of fire and ice. I just realized I usually associate them, at least in Inquisition, with lightning instead. Fire they will use to burn an opponent. A magical flame will combust anything you wear regardless of make. Ice they will use to freeze an opponent in place. Be cautious, for they enjoy employing this against warriors in particular. More than one group of Templars has made the mistake of attempting to overwhelm a Pride Demon and suffering the consequences, believe me. And if you think you have the aid of other mages, if you think that having the aid of other mages will assist you, you are wrong. Pride Demons can render themselves immune to magic for short times, and are adept at dispelling magic that is cast upon you. As much as we Templars are able to disrupt spells. Sorry. Think on that a moment, my friends. Be wary of how prideful you become, lest you find too much in common with such a fiend. Transcript of a lecture given by Verne, Templar commander of Tentervale, 686 Steel. And that's it for this one. Thank you for watching, doing your relevant things YouTube's buttons, and have a nice day.